talk to people all the time and I say, hey, have you ever been to a 5-year-old soccer game? I'm like, they're like, yeah. It's like, hey, you get all the players. What do they do when they get started for the game? You get all the players in the right spot, right? They go put the ball down. They blow the whistle. What happens on that field? And they're like, they all run for the ball. I'm like, yeah, they all run for the ball. They're kicking the ball. The goalie comes out. He doesn't stay where he's supposed to be. Everybody's trying to kick the ball, but the ball's not going anywhere. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of chaos. Parents are yelling. Coaches yelling. They're trying to get the kids are having a ball, but there's not actually a lot happening as it relates to running plays, scoring, defending, all the things that happen. Fast forward to middle school, high school, right? Same setup. People positioned well. Game kicks off. What happens on the field? People play their position.
So, hey guys, this is John Gamatis. I'm back here again with three of the coaches from Exit Momentum. I've got Cullen Talley, head coach and founder, as well as two of Exit's certified business coaches, Jason Ambo and Derek Keller. I want you guys to see if this sounds familiar. The tactics that got us here are no longer working. We're putting in the effort, but we're stuck. This is something that we've run into personally in our business. We've had to dig out of. And what it is really is the ways that you've created success in the past are not going to work forever. Eventually, you're going to have to change how you do some things. I've experienced this myself as we've been adding products, adding people, adding staff. You do all of those things. You think that's going to get you from point A to point B, but eventually you hit that spot where you're going to have to start to change things. The old tactics are no longer going to work. Cullen, I know this has been top of mind for you lately. It's one of the things you're hearing from clients, and you shared this the other day, which I thought was interesting. You're hearing from clients, we've got a lot of capable people, but we're not clear on who owns what. We've got systems to use to prevent overlap. There's a lot of things we could be doing, but we're not sure which things are the right things. That's a challenge, I think, that a lot of businesses have. A lot of them are challenged with how they're going to get to that next level, and they're not going to be able to do it based on the way they did it to get to where they are today. You want to start to unpack this a little bit for us?
I do. And it makes me think of an analogy that I use all the time with our leadership teams that seems to resonate. In fact, a client yesterday that I've had for a little over 3 years, it was saying to me, man, I got to play my spot on the field. And so I talk to people all the time and I say, hey, have you ever been to a 5-year-old soccer game? I'm like, they're like, yeah. It's like, hey, you get all the players. What do they do when they get started for the game? You get all the players in the right spot, right? They go put the ball down. They blow the whistle. What happens on that field? And they're like, they all run for the ball. I'm like, yeah, they all run for the ball. They're kicking the ball. The goalie comes out. He doesn't stay where he's supposed to be. Everybody's trying to kick the ball, but the ball's not going anywhere. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of chaos. Parents are yelling. Coaches yelling. They're trying to get the kids are having a ball, but there's not actually a lot happening as it relates to running plays, scoring, defending, all the things that happen. Fast forward to middle school, high school, right? Same setup. People positioned well. Game kicks off. What happens on the field? People play their position. And so what we notice in a lot of organizations that are getting to that spot is they've added people, but they haven't really figured out how to specialize. So they've thrown people at the problem, kind of thrown money at the problem, but it hasn't solved it, right? There's just more people involved. And so they're a little bit like the 5-year-old soccer. And a lot of my clients really find that to be true for themselves. They're like, yeah, we care a lot. There's a lot of effort, but we're not getting that. So how do we set them up to wind up thinking about what position on the field do I play? And that's not me saying, hey, this isn't my job. It is me saying I'm going to be in the right position to assist you when you need me to do my part. And so then we can build processes. We can get clear about accountability. We can measure all kinds of things from that standpoint. And there really are these inflection points, again, where that happens across businesses. We see that in terms of numbers of people. There's something called the rule of 3 in 10 that was discovered many, many years ago over in Asia. And one of the gentlemen who did that said basically at each one of these spots, something happens or breaks in the organization. When we go from 1 to 3 people, there's a bit of a break. When we go to 10, when we go to 30, when we go to 100 people, that can happen. You can also see it in revenue. There are these spots where people get to where they run into this resistance and can't figure out how to kind of break through. To your point, John, it could be the number of people. It could be products and services. It could be just manage the sheer number of clients. And that's our job, is to help them think through how to make that occur. And that's why we see so many businesses get stuck, because they do not have a method for breaking through that. And so it becomes a real challenge about how do we do that. The other thing is it creates a lot of frustration. And oftentimes, again, a leaking of resources, quite frankly, in the organization in terms of people and in terms of money, right? All of a sudden it's like, man, we've been trying to do this. We've been working really hard. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. It's actually bled into my personal life and I'm not getting the result. And we've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Like, it's not a short time period. We're not talking about 2 months. People have been after it and they've been wanting to break through. They just can't quite figure it out. And they've actually run out of steam themselves and they're getting frustrated and trying to figure out whether they're even the leader to pull that off. And do they have the right team? They don't know how to assess those things moving forward. So it's a critical problem. It's one every business owner is going to face, no matter the size of the business, where they need to recreate themselves at a certain size. And so my encouragement to a lot of business owners is to say, don't resist it. Don't resist it. That's true. Recognize it's going to happen. And when you get there, there are ways for you to think through that. But if it's just you're efforting it, that's not going to be enough. And so you have to recognize that's true and step back from and realize possibly some of the things that worked for us to solve the problem last time we got here, we actually have to let go of. So emotionally and mentally, I've got a challenge now because it's like, wait a minute, this is the thing that saved us 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This was the answer. I'm like, I get that. We can be grateful for that. It is no longer the answer. It is now the prison bars that are holding you back because you cannot see because you're only looking through that lens. So you have to see a different way. So to me, it's an exciting thing for clients because I know what's possible and we've seen what's possible in terms of what people can happen for their business, for their teams. And quite frankly, John, the cool thing to me on this topic in particular is, the business owners that we're so fortunate to work with are most interested in solving this for their team. Yeah, they want to make money. They want to return that profit, but they constantly are talking about building and taking care of the team members they have, the communities they're a part of, the clients they have. That's their heart and soul in the businesses that we deal with. So yes, we want to make money and all that kind of stuff, but it's about breaking through so they have this opportunity creation in the market for the people that they love, respect, and honor that are part of the team, are deeply connected to the business.
It's interesting, Cullen, because it made me think about this idea that, right, more is not always better. Right. So to your point about the analogy about that, right, like the skill sets and mindsets you navigated the hallways of primary school with will get your ass kicked in high school. Like, you got to shift. You have to change. You got to become something new, right? To be able to navigate high school versus, and that's the same idea in business as you grow. I think the message that, Cullen delivered there, which is so critical, is it's not a mistake. You didn't screw up.
Yeah.
It's just that what you've done before that was so successful. I understand why you're hanging on to it because, darn it, this is how I got here. But it's just insufficient to get to the next level. So our owners, as Cullen said, care about their people. So they go, I'll just pour more. I'll just give them more. The truth is they don't have any more. They're at their personal or financial or emotional capacity. They're here. And so their real genius doesn't get deployed because they're trying to do more of what worked in the past that is no longer applicable in today's environment where they are at. So they have to switch up. So one of the things we do really well, one of the things Cullen has led us in very well, is to just hold that mirror up for people and help them see where you've been is fantastic. You should be very proud. But if you really want to get, like you mentioned earlier, John, get from point A to B, they're already at D, but their vision is M. And you can't get to M doing it the way it's working at D. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and I want to caveat that real quick, and then curious to hear what Derek has to say on the topic as well. But the other thing I would say is that I notice owners, I'm sure you guys do as well, start to play revisionist history. So they'll start to say, well, I did the thing and that was the wrong move. I'm like, no. It was the great move. It got you here. Like, quit undoing what got you here. That's fantastic. You got to this place, but then they get stuck and they get frustrated and they feel like they screwed up, to Jason's point. And so I think there's a freeing there when we recognize this is natural in organizations, whether it's, business or anything else. Managing people and people's energy is hard. And then second, not actually taking the win away from yourself when you actually have won and got into a point, and doing this revisionist history that we screwed. The team will start talking about, well, we should have. No, great, you're here. Now they're changing. We have to make from here, but let's not take away what you did create to get to this point. And so I think there's an emotional component to that, and just a psychological component that we see that we kind of have to reframe. To Jason's point about holding up that mirror, Derek, I know you've run this as well, so I know you probably have some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna kind of go a little bit different direction as far as the sports team, the five, the 5 year olds running towards the ball in soccer. I was thinking more along the ball hog, right? So you get the owner or that manager that really. So the owner, he's bootstrapped the whole thing. So he comes in and he's been doing everything. He or she's been doing everything. They're really used to doing everything, and they don't realize that they have to let go to grow. And then also the manager that comes in and does all the busy work and does all these things because they think that that's what gives them value and what makes them makes the owners or other people see them as valuable inside of the organization. They don't realize that being able to delegate and elevate and be able to push these things off and really truly grow a team is what really makes them valuable and what helps them scale and get to that next level and stops holding them back. Right. The funny thing is about the ball hog mentality is like they think that they're helping. Right? They think that the only way to win the game is if they do it. I have owners that we walk in and we're talking to them and they say, I did all of this and it got us here, like Colin had said, it got us here, and I know that it'll get us here, and you're like, no, man, like what. You're peaked. You've hit your ceiling. You're maxed out. That's why you're stuck. That's why we're here today. You got to listen to, rational thinking and realize that you have capacity. So many of these ball hogs don't really see the capacity issue. They feel it, but they don't actually see it.
They also don't, Derek, on that point, they also are unable to give people the space to do it their way. Right. That's the other thing I noticed too, as well. It's like it can only be done this way. Our sales process can only be done this way. Our account manager can only be done this way. Our finances can only be done this way. It's like, well, yeah, you can have some guidelines for sure. We love process. We're big on playbooks and stuff like that. But you got to give people, I'm like, they got to be able to color inside the lines. Like you can't have to stand behind them and make them do it. And kind of some of those ball hogs and the other place I noticed that, Derek, is people who had a financial challenge earlier in their business. So, right, they founded the business, things were going well, they made a mistake or had some challenges. It cost them financially significantly. So then they hold on so tight that they can't let go. And so part of this is helping them understand, hey, if you want, and this is an if you want to move beyond this place, you're going to have to let go. You're going to have to help create some guidelines, but you're going to have to empower people to own some things. You're going to have to learn what delegation really means, and you're going to have to activate that in your organization or be totally okay with what you've built. That's a perfectly fine choice, but don't tell me you want to grow and you want this to change and you're going to keep this controlling mentality, right? And that takes time, and we do have to respect, especially when people have pulled themselves out of a deep hole or a ditch and it was financially impacted in them professionally and personally, that history matters as we work through this process.
Well, yeah, and the the funny thing is that they don't realize that these people have to make mistakes and learn. They don't allow them the ability to make the mistakes, and they speak to them from where they're at, rather than where the employee's at in their learning space, right? So, like Sam used to say, Sam Felsafi, speak to them as if they're 5 years old, right? Because they are 5 years old in that industry. They're like a 5-year-old. They are that soccer player that's going out and trying to chase the ball and get things done. But you have to allow them to make the mistakes so that they can learn from them.
I think that's interesting what you said, though, Colin, about especially those that have had some financial challenges in the past, but their business got in trouble at some point, because it reminds me of personal growth. If you're still tethered to the past, there's only so far forward you can go. Yeah. Right? It's like you have a length of cord in your life. And if you're tethered way back here, there's only so far you can reach until you let go of that so that you can get to the next level. And that's hard. We all know when you wake up and you got to make payroll and you got $1,000 in your operating account, you never forget that feeling. And it's kind of hard to allow somebody to make a mistake on your behalf.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if I think about it for our clients across industries, across the country, across size, from from $2 million in revenue to well over $100 million in revenue, regardless of industry. I think when I think about those folks, I think about some of the great founders and owners we had. It is once we can get that turn, it's about having a level of visibility to what's going on, right? So that they don't feel like it's out of control, because that's oftentimes when I look back at the history, what happened is they handed it off to somebody. They went back to doing the thing that they loved, whether it was sales or, the construction stuff or whatever industry they're in. Things got in trouble and they turned back and like, I'm never letting go of that again. And I'm like, great, you don't have to let go of it, but you actually don't have to do it and stand over somebody. There's a way to have visibility and accountability when you set this up the right way. That is solvable. That is a solvable problem for you to move past if you do it well.
A lot of what you guys are talking about with owners is helping them break some of those emotional tethers where they're stuck. They're stuck to that past failure. They're stuck to, here's what I love to do. Here's how I built this in the past. That emotional connection gets pretty tight. How do you help owners and leaders break free from that?
So I think just one naming it. So we one of our core values is say what needs to be said regardless of risk. So we will step into an ownership team, leadership team, and deliver this message without fear of, we don't operate from a place of, well, we could lose a client. We're going to say what needs to be said based on what we've seen. We also help them understand it's okay. Right. So it's like, it's okay that that's where you are. The question is, do you want a different result? And if you do, we're going to have to let go of some stories, some mindsets that limit us, and just helping them think through that. So there's some exercises that we use specifically, one in particular where we work through facts and feelings, because there's a lot of feelings in that and not a lot of facts. So we'll keep getting stories like, well, what's true? And they'll, okay, well, what's the facts? Well, I don't have any facts. Well, maybe we should get some. Right. So I think this oscillation between facts and feelings is one that really helps some of our owners turn that corner and be like, okay, and leadership teams, quite frankly. So we want, those folks to be able to do that as well. But that's one of the, I think, the key techniques for me that has helped owners transition over that, because it's not a snap of the finger. That's something we're going to have to work through with them over a period of time, weeks, maybe months, shouldn't be any longer than that. And then, of course, getting results and saying, look, these are the indicators that show us we can start to let go of that, and you can start to trust this is going to work well.
Are there ways? Let me ask you one other question. Are there ways for owners and leaders to figure out that they're stuck before they have that we're stuck moment, like to catch this before it becomes a problem?
I believe so. I mean, it's really just getting into that short and long-term prediction and really seeing the picture and getting ahead of the game, right? So many times these industries are so stuck in what they're doing at the time that they're not really planning and looking forward and trying to create beyond where they're at. So they can't stay ahead of the industry, and they're not innovating on their processes. They're not looking for the pinch points, right? So I mean, I like to compare it to a general in the military, right? I come from a military background. A general can't make battlefield decisions if he's in the battlefield. He can't move people to the right places. He can't foresee the different things that are coming at him. Whereas if he's back and has that sky cam view that we talk about inside of the football field, right? You got to have that overarching overviewing of the field, of the battlefield, to be able to make the right moves and make the right decisions. When you're stuck in it, you're just going to make knee-jerk reactions and constantly be stuck hitting ceilings. Yeah.
So creating space, so taking the time to create the space. I think tactically, you got to have some type of third-party involvement, right? That could be a friend that you're talking to from that in the community that's got some business experience. That could be one of the peer groups that are out there. There's plenty of those that are out there, both industry and not. That could be some other third party that's either industry specific or not. And so to me, it is really something to create the space, right? And that can be formal or informal. But to Derek's point, there's got to be some distance. Otherwise, you just kind of stay in it from that standpoint, and having some markers to say, did we get there or not, right? Because if you're, as one of my clients said that we've got on one of our testimonial videos on the website, if your 5-year plan is still your 5-year plan 5 years later, that's a problem. And, so I thought that was a great way to put it. We've had the same 5-year plan for 5 years and it's still our 5-year plan. Well, maybe we should check that out.
Yeah. That's so interesting, right? And then Derek's military analogy too, because one of the things you'll hear about is why do some people lose wars is because they're fighting the last war, right? Like France tried to fight World War II like they did World War One, with being dug in and entrenched, defenses, and it was World War II. They just went around them.
Yep.
Right. And so oftentimes they're, again, as we just talked about before, they're fighting the last war.
Yeah.
But there's a new battle. It has to be waged differently. And they just don't see it. And to Cullen's point, one of the great things that we do and where we serve is we don't listen to the bullshit, and we tell them the truth about where they really are. And that helps them eject themselves forward a hell of a lot faster, because we have the ability of this sort of third party, right? This third party viewpoint, that we're not stuck in that fog of war. We can see it more clearly than they are, because we're not grinding every day like they are inside of their business.
Yeah, and again, that gets back to the third party, whether it's us or something else. There's obviously lots of different ways to choose that. My thing is having it, that person is not as emotionally connected. They're not financially tied. So there's some perspective they can give, right? And I think the two things we hear from clients is one in particular that was actually we were planning on they feel like they've done great work over 3 years. I was like, I think you're in a really good spot. We got to the end of their annual last year, and the owner comes out and he's like, dude, I'm nauseous. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm nervous about this. And this is a business that's done great things, been around 127 years, 5th generation owner. And I said, well, what do you? He's like, I just am concerned based on what has happened over the last 3 years. I'm going to miss something. And so when I think about the investment that we make with you compared to the cost of missing something, so I would just say that third party perspective is what we hear. Some clients even talked about, like, this is our insurance policy to make sure we see things we can't see on our own. And so again, multiple ways to solve that, right? Certainly we have solutions. There are other ways to do it as well. But bottom line is, I think that to your original question, John, about how do we not have this happen again? How do we see it faster? It is oftentimes that third party view that's going to be such a critical part of this. And you can get that a number of ways.
I think that's a good place to land this conversation. And I love that third party view framework. It's like having a drone that's going to come over your business from 500 feet in the air and see it top down versus what you see when you're in the middle of it. All the fog, all the stuff, everything that's going on in your business that you can't see because you're in it. The drone's eye view really gives you the opportunity to see that, look at it through a different lens. And you guys definitely bring that. So bringing this home, Cullen, if I want to engage with Exit Momentum, if I'm in this and I realize that what got me here is not what's going to move me to where I want to go, how can I engage with Exit? What does that look like? How do you frame that up?
Yeah, I would start with this, John, to say, listen, our purpose as an organization, our just cause is to redefine freedom for ourselves, our teams, and many others who don't know we exist. And so the thing that comes from us, from a bones, from a soul, from a spiritual place, is really helping you redefine freedom. That starts with you engaging with us, and there's content available for you in terms of videos you can watch on the site, content you can download and use. And then the other thing I would say is book a call. Book a call with one of our coaches, so you have an opportunity, you as an owner, to have a one-on-one conversation, or if you have another owner, that's fine, to start that. It's typically 30 minutes. We get clear whether we need to take the next step, which is what we call a fit meeting. But that's really the place to start. You can book that on the website. We'll get you connected to the right coach on the team. And again, part of our promise to you is we're going to deliver value in that conversation, whether it's a fit or not, because we need to make sure it's a fit in both directions, but we want to deliver value. So go to the website, exitmomentum.com, book a call with one of the coaches, and that'll get us started on the path from there.
I think you guys added a ton of value in this conversation we just had right here. So thank you for hopping on today. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And we'll talk again soon.